Greetings, everyone. It is day 2 of working on the forms down at the build site, and I am working with my neighbor, Brian. Brian's been reading blueprints his whole life, and he is just so much faster at figuring out the wall lengths than I am. So he was calling out the lengths that we needed to cut the boards for the forms, and while I was cutting the boards, he would be driving the stakes in to hold them up. And that was pretty much the procedure for the whole day. And I didn't want to waste a lot of Brian's time moving the camera around and getting different video shots. So I have a lot of time-lapse video today. So hopefully you enjoy the video and the music. And let's get going. So this is a point where Brian and I had run into our first problem of the day. We set that last form running down the east wall of the foundation, and it wasn't lining up with the string lines that we had set in the morning. So you'll see us going back and forth on the wall, trying to figure out if some of those jogs that go in towards the inside of the house and back out, if they weren't square, and that was what was throwing our length off. And we were just kind of scratching our heads and couldn't figure out what happened. So eventually we remeasured by laying the tape, measuring tape on top of the boards so it could be nice and flat, nice and straight, and marked everything off. And what we figured out in the end was that in the morning when we were setting up the strings, there were no boards and nothing to hold the 200-foot long tape that we were pulling to set the measurements. Nothing to hold that up, that the sag of the measuring tape threw the measurement off. So you'll see us make a little adjustment in that wall to get it back in line with the string. And, when you're trying to measure off 125 feet using one of those long rolling tape measures, there's a good chance that you'll be off slightly at the far end. So it was good that we finally figured it out, because it had us scratching our heads for a moment, and we got back to work and continued on. So as you can see, the wind really started kicking up in the afternoon, and we were getting some pretty good dust plumes blowing through the job site. But what was also causing us havoc is the string lines were really moving. So as we started down the back wall of the house here, it was really hard to keep the wall straight, as these string lines would blow probably an inch or more each direction. You figure these lines are probably 130 feet end to end, and with that much wind, they can deviate quite a bit. So made things kind of exciting, and eventually the consensus was we're gonna put the wall up at the best spot we think in the wind, and check it in the morning. And that's what we did. And so we went ahead and set this back wall, and the next morning we straightened it up before we got started again. So here's the end of day 2. We are, I would say, about 3/4 away, or at least around the perimeter. So we're looking pretty good as far as the top boards, and the rest will fill in pretty fast. But I want to give a big shout out to my neighbor Brian, who came over to help me with all of this. He saw me out here struggling by myself and decided to pitch in to help. So thank you, Brian. You're making a world of difference. I truly appreciate the help. This was just a daunting task, and you saw how long it took me to do the one wall on the side of the garage over there at the far end. So thank you so much for coming over and agreeing to help me with this, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.